Okay, let's talk physics. So obviously there is a lot more in depth that we can go into this. We're just going to do tip of the iceberg stuff for today. It's really cool to think about how physics affects our yoga practice because it's not something we normally think about. The first thing we're going to chat about though is ground reaction force. So ground reaction force is the force exerted from the ground by a body on it. So if you are like me right now, I'm just sitting on the ground. I don't have a lot of I'm not really doing anything, I'm just sitting on it. I'm not getting much reaction from the ground because why would I? I'm just sitting here. Now if I were to put my hands on the ground and push, you may think, oh, this is all arm strength, but I'm getting some momentum from pressing into the earth. I'm getting some of that momentum back. It is an actual biomechanics term. It's kind of trippy to think about. But let's think about it like this. So just take your arms in front of you. If I were to do just purely lifting myself up with the strength of my arms, I can't really do it. You know, I can maybe lift with my abs and clench my outer body, but if I'm just trying to press up with arms, straight arms, you can try this at home too, you can't go very far. But if you bend into the earth first, give it a little something, you get that reaction back. That's how we build momentum. And that's how we build the momentum that we want to lift our poses from the ground up. So you'll see as we get more into this course that we are starting everything at the ground, we're starting everything with our foundation, really using that ground reaction force to bring momentum through the rest of our body to get into the rest of the pose. So that's kind of one piece of it. And then you have to think about Newton's laws of physics. So we have, you can think about it, FAR is kind of the best acronym for it. So you have force, acceleration, and reaction. So the first one, and these all will take you far in your practice, if you know what I'm saying. So the three laws of motion: an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by another force. So this applies more in if we're doing like handstands or kicks or jumps or anything. If you are just wildly moving your legs like that, your momentum, you know, you're in motion, you're just going to stay in motion. So we want to think about that when we're trying to get into some of our poses, because if we are just using all of our momentum to get into a pose, we're just going to keep going. There's nothing stopping us until we've gone past the pose and fallen over or hit the wall or whatever the case may be. So we're really going to be learning to dial that back and use that ground reaction force to build up an intentional momentum that's not just going to throw us beyond the pose that we're trying to do. The other laws are object velocity remains the same unless accelerated. So kind of a similar thing if we are in the same, if we stay in the same speed, we'll stay in that same speed unless we have something else accelerating us. That one doesn't necessarily apply too much for what we're going to talk about in this course. And then the last one though, is really important to remember, is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And that's a lot of where that ground reaction force comes in. Because again, if I'm here, there's not really any action happening, there's no reaction happening. But if this is my action, this is my reaction. And it's just, and that's all arm strength. I'm not having to do anything with my abs really when I'm doing that. So those are kind of the main physics elements to think about. Really, like I said, the important ones are that ground reaction force and momentum. Those are the two you really want to think about, because we want controlled momentum. We don't want to be throwing ourselves into our poses because there's nothing that's going to stop us until we hit an opposite force, like our wall. So we don't want that. We want controlled momentum. We want to really build up from that ground reaction force.